Awesome. All right, y'all, we're gonna get started today with magic box packing. This came up because we get a lot of conversations, questions, and asks around how do you make your retail box program not a nightmare to pack on whatever day you're doing packing? And the answer is it's probably a nightmare to pack no matter what, because there's always something. But I have asked Erin Maher from Ag Connect and Kiara from Gorge Farmer Collective to walk us through their packing processes because both of those folks run pretty large retail box programs and they're both a little bit different. And they've come up with different ways to approach, if not reducing the nightmare, at least reducing errors within the nightmare. And they can talk through, they've brought some images to share with all of you, and they'll talk through some of the equipment that they use, some of the things that they have discovered along the way that have made things easier, some things that they've tried that have made things easier or not easier, and hopefully we can all benefit from their experience. And Kiara or Erin, which one of you wants to go first? Nobody wants to go first.
I can go.
I knew it. All right, Kiara.
Um,
And Kiara, if you could share with everybody, I don't know if everybody on this call knows what Gorge Farmer Collective is and how large it is and how you serve folks. If you could start with that, that'd be great.
Yeah. So hi everyone, Kiara with GFC. We are a farmer-owned cooperative out in the Columbia River Gorge. We're, I don't know, based kind of in Hood River, but we actually don't have a brick and mortar type deal. And we do a lot of like cross docking and probably like 10 different micro leases that I'll talk about, which keeps overhead low, but means there's a lot of coordinating to do. Can everyone see my screen all right? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So we started in 2020 in direct response to COVID and farmers just seeing their, restaurant and kind of just every market outlet disappear overnight. And a group of 5 farmers got together and came up with this creative solution to be able to move the food that they were already planting. And GFC was born. We started as a 5-person LLC just because the paperwork to get that up and running was a lot quicker than a cooperative. And then the next year we transitioned to a full-fledged cooperative, and we went from 5 farmers to now there's about 30 cooperative farm member owners and probably another 20 vendors. And so our model, I don't know, I think it's really meaningful because it was, it's by farmers for farmers, and just kind of keeping in mind that history of like, it was created by farmers. It's been farmer led. The board is all farmers. And they were actually doing, all of the administrative tasks up until last year when I was hired to take that on. And so through my presentation, I think a lot of when I run through logistics with folks, the big question is like, how do you get farmers to commit to this work and this level of detail? And so I like to just keep in mind that, it's been farmer run since the beginning. And we've been like slowly chipping away at making, it easier on our farmers as we add staff and infrastructure and all that. So I have kind of 2 pack models to share actually, because we have been running one model since the beginning, and then this year we kind of flipped it on its head. So kind of 2-part presentation, but the first is our traditional packing method. We, for the last couple of years, have been renting a grange basement that then we set up a bunch of tables and lay out all of the product, and then different farmers sign up for work shifts to help pack up the product, which is the picture on the right. And so how that kind of works is farmers will either, there were a couple options to deliver to different, we have 2 refrigerated trailers, one on the Washington side and one on the Oregon side. And so farmers could drop their product off in those trailers that would then be transported to the pack site anytime, like Monday, Tuesday. They get their pick lists, early Monday morning, so they can drop off, and then we pack on Wednesdays. So they had like a 2-day window to drop off their stuff in the trailers, or they could bring it directly to pack Wednesday morning. And they, everything would need to be really well labeled. Like some vegetable farmers might know what a kohlrabi is, but maybe ranchers or other people don't. And so there was like a lot of labeling labor involved, and always kind of, I don't know, some chaos of like, if something isn't properly labeled and it slips through the check-in, just like a scramble to figure out like what this is and where it's supposed to go. So basically all of the farm product is laid out on tables alphabetically by farm. You get the pack sheet that I'll show you in a second. And then you like just kind of walk down the line and grab each item and put it in the customer's bin. Then it goes to, and we have 2 people doing that. Then it goes to the checker, which is the photo on the top right. And they will kind of repack the box, make sure everything looks good, like tomatoes aren't getting squished, all of that. And then they'll go through and double check it. And then it goes to me, who was the labeler, and I'd put like the customer sticker on the lug, write down if there's like any meat items that are packed separately in coolers so they stay frozen, and all of that. And then it would get loaded up into our different refrigerated trailers or farmer vehicles. And then farmers would kind of take it on or back to the pickup site on their way home. So we had this like strategic, like one person that's going back to this area comes to pack and from this area. So then that way, when it was time to transport orders, it's really not out of your way. And we have someone like going back to every corner of the gorge. We use local food marketplace, and this is the packing list we use, or you take this list and then you like grab items, put it in the lug. This is really nice because it'll show you different storage types. So for example, like at the bottom, you'll see like, I bought a frozen item. And then that would translate into like the lug on, or the sticker lug, how many frozen items a customer has, because they're not packed in the lug. They're in a separate cooler to stay frozen. And then like some other random items like flowers are in a bucket of water, or we did like plant starts that were in a separate box. And this packing list doesn't show it, but if there's multiple quantities, it'll automatically bold that line for you. And we've seen over and over, before we use the packing list, and we actually, if anyone uses local food marketplace, maybe you're familiar with like the invoices format, which we used for a couple years. And then one day we found that you can print packing lists that are so much easier. But most of the mistakes in packing that the double checker hopefully catches is from multiple quantity items. And so each lug has the customer's invoice. It has the sticker with their name, their pickup location. And then, if it's a big order, they have additional lugs that's indicated if they have any frozen items, any flowers, anything else. And we just kind of try to make, as many checks and balances as possible because the pickup, once the orders go to the pickup locations, there's a separate pickup host that kind of helps customers get their orders. And this is just those, those people are farmers, they're community members that are, like representatives of the business that we're partnering with as our pickup host location. So just really trying to make it kind of foolproof, because there's a lot of different moving parts and people. And so that is how we run things for a la carte, like customizable orders, which is basically our entire direct-to-consumer program. We don't do like set CSA boxes, which is a blessing and a curse. I think it makes us stand out as like a unique business, but it also takes a lot of labor and there's a lot of room for error. We do set boxes for VeggieRx programs that Gorge Grown Food Network, a community partner out here, contracts us to provide boxes for low-income families. And those are all set, which is really nice. And so kind of what we do for that is we have this wonderful massive rolly cart that I don't really know the right name for it. But then with this, hopefully this video works. We kind of just like traditional assembly line it. And this way, we're able to pack like dozens of boxes in a couple minutes, which is really nice. Yeah, and so then once everything's packed up, it goes out to our different pickup sites. Right now we're operating 6. That number will probably grow later this spring. Pickup sites, we have, everything stays refrigerated. So we have a couple locations that we have reefer trailers, or we partner with businesses that have walk-in space available. There's a couple locations that have like reach-in fridges that lugs are placed into also. We work with a lot of granges and breweries. Breweries have wonderful walk-in space usually. So the other kind of like third check and balance that goes out to make sure a customer gets all of their items is this like master pickup post sheet. I redacted names and phone numbers. But it's just like another check and balance for that pickup post to know exactly what that customer got, how many frozen items they need to dig out of the cooler, if there's any flowers or plant starts or whatnot. And then a friendly little reminder to clean customers' lugs after they pick them up. And I attached the pickup post SOP to these, so that's always on hand. And yeah, just kind of make it foolproof. So this is kind of the behind the scenes, labor component. You'll see on the left, this is what was necessary for the system that I just ran through. You'll notice that on May 11th, my mom came in for extra hands. And it's just, it worked and the system was good. But it was really kind of volunteer management heavy, which got really chaotic. And by volunteers, I mean the cooperative farmers. So these are all owners of the business who want to see it succeed, and are more than willing to, donate a couple hours of their month to make sure the business operates. So we kind of went from like that crazy spreadsheet on the left to our new system on the right, which I'll talk about in a second. But it's really just pared down and less of a work commitment for everyone that I'm really excited about. So this is our new system. we call it the anti-pack, for lack of a better term. And basically, so we rent a little bit of space in a cold storage warehouse through a local brewery. And it kind of flips the whole system on its head, where I go in and, pre-label and like set up lugs on Monday. And then farmers actually come in and put their items in the customer's lug directly. We also got a nice reach-in freezer, top right, from a farm to school or Oregon Department of Agriculture farm to school grant, which is awesome. So that meat stays frozen. And yeah, farmers just come anytime on Tuesday, like 8 to 5, or Wednesday morning, and pack their stuff up directly into lugs. And so that this is how that, the paperwork for that looks, right? So I have like the SOP, I have time in, time out, very official handwritten. And the not packed clipboard will have all of the farmers' detailed pick lists, which is what the right photo shows. And I redacted names, but like all the customers' names are there, their location, and then what they ordered. And then I've been going through and, highlighting multiple quantities, which we'll see if that sticks. But just because those, when someone has multiple quantities, it's really easy to miss it. So I think, I don't know, taking a couple minutes on the front end to make sure that's really clear to everyone instead of going back and, fixing customer mistakes and all of that fun customer service stuff. Yeah, and so every farmer has this detailed pick list. They go around, they plop their stuff in the lugs. It, can take a bit of time, and but it's nice because they, the work they're putting into this new system is like directly correlates with how many sales they're making. And so like before, you'd sign up for a pack shift and maybe you didn't sell very much that week. And you're, packing everyone else's stuff. And now it's kind of just like, okay, you have a good week, then you're gonna like take a little bit more time to pack your stuff, and it's worth it because you're getting more money. And yeah, it's just, I feel like it's a pretty like equitable work shift load. And you don't, the labeling burden is lessened because you grew it, like, exactly what that product is. No one's guessing like, what the hell's a tot soy Rob? I don't know how to pack this. I don't know where it is. So it kind of shifts the responsibility onto each individual farmer a little bit more. And then we load up at the warehouse around 10 a.m. on Wednesdays. And this is a great change too, because, when we were doing the previous pack system, we'd be done, anywhere between 11 and like 2, depending on how many orders and like mistakes and craziness there was in the day. But this system, like, everything's ready to go out on delivery by 10. And so we load it in to our new little Isuzu reefer truck. And just, I kind of do a lap around the gorge, and drop orders off at different delivery or pickup locations. With that farm to school infrastructure grant, we're also getting a lift gate soon, that I'm really excited about. But the wonderful thing about our warehouse lease is they do have some forklifts to help us out when we need to also. So I think that's it.
Kiara, this is amazing. And I feel like I learned so much from it. There's a few some specific questions about the equipment. It looked like there was some about the lugs specifically, whether or not they were collapsible. And then I'm guessing that there's some other questions from the group that have come up. But I wanted to just say it's so helpful to see both packing methods that you used and have you talk through why you switched to a different method, which, you know, the way you're doing it now might not work for everybody, but I think it's really, really innovative and I'm really excited about it. So if you want to answer the question about the I bet you are, about the lugs, and then we'll see what else comes out of the crowd here.
So our lugs, they're not collapsible. They do nest. Depending on like which way you turn them, they'll like either nest or stack. I actually would not recommend the lugs we have. And I don't know, I'm in the market for probably just like Rubbermaids with lids. I don't have a good picture of our lugs, but there's a lot of like nooks and crannies that are prone to getting really dirty. And you know, then big group project and people are supposed to clean them, you know, when they go out and customers get their stuff, and it's written like 5 different places, like wipe out the lug really well. And that doesn't always happen. You know, and I have a power washer, but maybe that's not the best use of my time.
What's your dream lug? What are the attributes of your dream lug?
Smooth surface. I think ideally single, just like one piece, like, you know, the Rubbermaid like storage lugs, like the lid actually comes off. If there was something that was like a smooth surface, no nooks and crannies that got super scuzzy, but also like just one part to keep track of. And I know there's like there's bins like that where the top kind of like folds over.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
There's a question from Katie about leafy greens. Katie, do you want to ask your question?
Oh, sure. I just I saw those open lugs in a big walk-in cooler, and I was curious, are the greens in those lugs in bags so that they don't get dried out and wilty?
Yeah, so we ask that, you know, our farmers are in control of, or like not control, they're responsible for making sure their items will store until customers pick them up. And so if they're dropping off on Tuesday, you know, for orders going out on Wednesday, like, yeah, they would need to bag them. We haven't, the only greens we've had come in so far are, I don't know, they're getting packed on Wednesday, so it's same day. And we'll kind of see, you know, as more produce is coming online, come spring, we'll kind of see how that goes. But yeah, that's another part with like a closed lug, right? As it retains humidity better. But also our warehouse, it's like primarily a fruit storage warehouse for their like cider program. And so the humidity is pretty high, and that really helps keep things fresh. But yeah, we're gonna see how that goes. And that's kind of on the farmer.
Great. What other questions do we have for folks? I'm scrolling through all of you. I don't see any hands raised or any other cues in the chat. Are we ready for Erin to go ahead and start their presentation? Kiara, this was amazing. Amazing, amazing. It's a huge resource for all of us. Thank you for taking the time to put together such a comprehensive one.
Yeah, I'm happy to share. And I have some SOPs and whatnot I can upload somewhere or to the
yeah, if you send those over to me, I will drop them into the folder that has this meeting's notes. And if you're happy to share those SOPs, we are happy to share them out collectively.
Will do.
Thank you. Amazing. We got a would love to see SOPs, and I bet there's some enthusiastic heads nodding right now on that one. All righty, Erin, are you ready?
You bet. Let me see if I can get my screen to share. Is that visible to everybody, hopefully? Okay, great, thank you. All right, that was super interesting for me because our process is so different. So I'm gonna think about that a lot. Like there's probably things that I can improve from what Kiara is doing. So I'm gonna talk about, sorry, I'm Erin. I'm the GM and Director of Agricultural Connections, and I'm also kind of our outgoing retail program manager. So I've spent way too much time thinking about our direct-to-consumer packing process. So feel free to throw out questions if I'm either getting too into the weeds or not enough in the weeds, because I could probably talk about this for like hours. Our program is pretty different from what Gorge Farmer Collective is doing. We are primarily doing a curated produce box, so a CSA style box. We have additional items people can add on, but that's by far the minority of what we're packing every week. We're packing 3 sizes of weekly box that usually contain about 1 fruit, 1 to 2 greens, and the rest whatever veg is seasonal and local at that time. Our smallest box has 5 to 6 items in it. Our middle box has 7 to 8, and our full box has 8 to 10. And we're packing about 140 boxes each week, 51 weeks of the year. So things change pretty dramatically throughout the year in terms of obviously what kind of product we're getting, but also that means in terms of how much we're weighing and sorting product and when we're getting things in and how fragile things are and things like that. So it's this is the basic process, and it definitely is tweaked throughout the seasons. We don't allow people to make substitutions or customizations on their box except for adding the items on. And we fulfill via home delivery and staffed pickups. So we have kind of slightly tweaked processes for each of those as well, which I will talk about. All right. So our packing process begins with our planning process, which begins with deciding what's going to go in the box each week. And a big part of that, definitely not like the first or second most important thing. Those would be like how much local product can we get? How much can we move that our farmers need to get out of their fields and have ready and beautiful and ready to go? And then the next step down would be, how do we have a good product mix that the customers are going to be interested in, that's different enough from last week's box and next week's box to keep people excited? And then the third level down from that would be, how much staff time is this going to take? Because unlike Gorge Farmer Collective, we get almost all of our product in from our farmers in bulk. Sometimes we can ask people to pre-portion out like salad mix or potatoes or something like that for us, but most of the time we're doing that in-house. So we have to really weigh how much time it's going to take to weigh out the product, and think about a balance of variety and localness, and also staff time and energy, so that we can actually get things out appropriately to people. So these are 2 different boxes we had in March. The one on the left is a box that I was very happy with. The one on the right is one that really took a ton of our time and was more difficult to get through. So one of the ways that we're thinking about this specifically is there's kind of 3 different approaches we can take with an item that is not already portioned. So like bunched radishes is great, bunched sorrel is great. Something like pears or oranges or apples is not already sold by the count to us, but we can easily convert it to a number of items that go in each box because they're uniform enough. It's very easy to say like a pound of pears is equal to about 3 pears or whatever it is once we get the product in and can look at it. Those are easy. We can do as many of those as we want. The next level up in terms of staff energy is an item that needs to be sorted. So sometimes rather than weighing out a bag of 2 pounds of rutabagas, we can sort the rutabagas based on their approximate size, and then use those categories to make up whatever we've decided the portion is for that week. And obviously it's not perfectly accurate, but it's a decent balance of accuracy and input of time and labor. to give a good product without taking a huge amount of our time. And then the most time intensive items are the ones that we have to weigh every single portion. And those are really important items for us: salad greens and other bulk greens, or potatoes, or mushrooms are all things that we really like to be able to give to people, and our customers really enjoy and grow well here. But they are the most intensive in terms of materials and staff time. So the box on the left, we had one of each of those categories, basically. The box on the right, we ended up weighing 3 different items and sorting 2. That's a huge input of staff time, so it's not ideal. Sometimes we have to do it, but that's kind of the first step, is just like thinking through what our staff output is going to be as we're making the box. This is the 2 different types of beets in our warehouse that have been sorted out by approximate size. We don't always go this granular. It depends on the product and the value and how much we're trying to put in the box that week. But basically, we're trying to use categories that are accurate to the item, but also let us make pretty easy calculations of like, okay, I need to grab 2 of these medium ones and 1 of this small one to make a portion while we're packing each of the boxes. This is our weighing setup, keeping everything as close as possible to the scale. We always pre-count our bags when we're weighing product so that we know exactly how many we need, and we don't have to keep track while we're actually doing the weighing. So it's kind of like one step at a time. We also don't have to recount afterwards. And then behind the scale, we have a crate that's been pre-labeled with what the size of this portion is, because sometimes we'll have some bags of some size and some bags of another size to go in the different sizes of our final box. So we want to make sure we keep those separate, obviously, and don't mix anything up there. So labeling everything in advance is really helpful. And then last weighing picture, we've got a sideways image of 2 of the kind of pre-set up portion sizes, like I was saying, of bags where we know we already have exactly what we need. And then sometimes what we'll do for root vegetables or other things that aren't very fragile is we'll wrap the portion in box paper or butcher paper, and that saves a little bit of materials. And our customers like it when we don't also use more materials than we need. So it kind of is good for everyone, so we're not spending that cost, but we're also able to have things pre-portioned and not just say like a handful of carrots and like hope that we're getting about the right amount. This is just a recap of what I said, so I'm going to go right past it, but it'll be on the slideshow if you want to look at it later. All right, past the prep stage, the actual packing process, we tend to use 3 pallets to store all our product, and we try to organize them carefully so that everything is really reachable on the pallet, each individual item that we're going to need. So in this picture, each of the kind of outside items is a different thing that's going to go into the box, so we can get at each one without having to like do a lot of lifting or pulling things over the top of things, which is both a safety thing, as we were talking about recently, but also is a efficiency thing, and lets us go through the pack process that we have, which I will show you the actual process in a second, most efficiently and effectively. So we pack all of our boxes of any individual size at once. We use a bunch of folding tables in our warehouse. We have 4 folding tables that we primarily use. 2 are 8 feet, 1 is 6 foot, 2 are 6 foot. And we put all of our wax boxes or our reusable crates out on the tables at once, and we work our way down each side of the table, packing 1 item at a time. So the rolling cart in the corner, each staff member who's packing has a rolling cart, and they load it up with all the product that's going to be packed in this round. And then they make their way one by one around the whole room. We do our best to pack from the largest or heaviest items to the lighter items. Sometimes we need to adjust that to pack a fragile item earlier on. So like hallux of what am I thinking of? The like little berry or tomato pints or half pints. We might need to pack those early on so we can like kind of wedge them into place and protect them as we're going, rather than have them be on the top and spill over. But generally it's the heaviest to the lightest, ending with leafy greens because they're very hard to see what's underneath them. And the way that we check ourselves is as we're going, each person is followed by the person who's packing behind them, and they're checking for the item that's being put in before them, before they put their own item in. So we used to put everything in and then go through each box and count every item in each box. And it was taking up a bunch of time, and also wasn't even always catching all of the errors because people were like having to change the way they were working so dramatically from the packing part. So this has been really effective for us to kind of just build the check in as we're going and have each staff member responsible for less things at once, but consistently throughout the packing process, if that makes sense. So here we've already put oranges in this box, and I'm packing broccoli rabe. And so I'm checking for the oranges before I put the rabe in. The person behind me would check for the rabe before they put in the next item. Again, this is just a recap of what I was just saying. I guess the only thing I haven't mentioned is that we're a very big fan of spritzing things and using paper liners, or sometimes we'll use the material that's from like holding apples in place in an apple box is kind of the perfect size to cover our crates. And that, as Katie was alluding to earlier, like really helps with the humidity problems or keeping the high quality of the greens that we have. Just making sure that each box or bag has been given a little bit of extra humidity and has been covered up and lined to keep it from just going through the holes in our crates or boxes. This is our finished pack for our warehouse pickup. All of the boxes that are on that pallet on the left are going to be picked up at our warehouse pickup. The different sizes indicate what the different type of boxes. So the smaller wax box is our medium-sized harvest box, the larger wax boxes are full, and then in the back there's some crates that are split and have two different small boxes in them. So it saves us a lot of time to not have to label each box by person or even by type of box that it is, because they're all exactly the same. All of the add-ons that people have ordered are packed separately, either in a box just for that person if it's a lot of items, or on this cart on the right, we have a box of different add-ons that will be passed out at the pickup when the person picks up their harvest box. That's another pallet of boxes ready to go out. Then this is our home delivery orders in our van. It's a pretty small order week this week, I think, because of spring break. But we have a few kind of tweaks to the process here. We do label all of these boxes. We sticker them with the person's name and what's going into the box. And we also use color coding on the stickers to indicate the part of the route. And we'll add notes as well, like Kiara, if there's any items that we weren't able to pack into the box, like things that are held at cellar temperature or things that are held in our freezer, we'll put a note for that and the driver will grab it before they go. But the extras do have to be added into these boxes because they're packed for the person. So that's just kind of a tweak to the process that happens while we're labeling them. Usually while we're closing up all the boxes, putting them on pallets, we also add the label and the extra items, but sometimes we'll add them while we're loading the van instead. And this is the only time in the process where we will intentionally use a different type of box. If we don't have to, we try to use the same box for all of the other parts, because we're going to label them anyway. And so it's a good kind of chance to use different things that we need to go through, or use a different size in order to have more space for the add-ons when people get a lot of extra stuff. Again, that'll just be in the slideshow if you want it. Just a couple images of our space. We have a walk-in that we share with our wholesale program, and the wholesale program definitely takes precedence for space. So we try to keep things as consolidated as possible. This is our shelves, as full as they tend to get. The bottom two parts of this shelf have our a la carte items on it, and then we have some packed up reusable bags. I should have mentioned the bags are something that the customers can purchase from us at cost. They're amazing for holding quality. We can pack the bags much farther in advance if we need to, which is really helpful sometimes. And the product looks great in there. I have a bag and I've left it in my fridge for like days and it's been totally fine. Got distracted, sorry. So we have some of the pre-packed bags there ready to go. But mostly we tend to store our stuff on 3 pallets for the product as it's coming in, and then 3 pallets plus the carts for the product that's ready to go out. This is just our kind of storage corner for our wax boxes and crates. There's also room on that shelf for all of our packaging needs, like paper bags, plastic bags, wax paper, butcher paper, other random things like rubber bands or twist ties that we might be able to use to portion a product, all kind of stuck in there. This is our weighing setup. It's a 6-foot table with 2 scales on it. And it's everything we need. We have all of our gloves and paper and pens so we can label things as needed. In terms of staffing, we have a person who's dedicated to this program, and they are like 30 to 35 hours a week about, as well as other staff members who help with the weighing and the packing so that it can be done more efficiently rather than taking huge chunks of time. We spend about 2 hours on the box planning process. We spend about an hour for each item that we have to sort, or 2 hours for each item that we have to weigh per product. We try to hit about 4 to 6 hours per week for that kind of work. It's definitely been higher sometimes, and sometimes it's been lower. And that can depend on a lot of factors, like how many we have in the box, but also if something's really fragile, or if we're getting to the end of the season. If we're doing potatoes now, we have to be more actively checking the quality than we would normally have to, so that'll take longer. We also take about an hour to prep and sort any add-on items and kind of categorize them by we put them based on our location they're going. So we'll have a box of the home delivery add-ons that need to be packed into the personal boxes. We'll have a box of the offsite pickup items. We'll have a box of our on-site pickup items. And then it takes about 7 to 9 staff hours to pack the box, which is usually done either all Wednesday morning, or we'll do the bags on Tuesday night and all the boxes on Wednesday morning, usually with 2 or 3 people total so it's much shorter shifts for each person, but total it's about 7 to 9 hours. I've talked about our supplies and pallet space. So yeah, I think that's, my random tips that I like to think about a lot. I'm, as I said, a very big fan of lining things with wax paper and spritzing greens. This is something we didn't used to do, and it's been amazing for increasing the quality. So if you're like, does it really make it better? It really does. It really, really does. Also, using the reusable bags is really helpful. We've put a lot of effort into kind of streamlining our process so that each person who's working on it has to think about as few things as possible at once, basically, and has to switch tasks as little as possible, because we find that that's the #1 place where errors tend to happen. So we try to sort and weigh all the product on 1 or 2 days and then switch to packing, rather than having people weighing while we're packing or something like that requires people to move back and forth more often. We also think a lot about eliminating points where errors are happening within the small process. So we used to have an issue where we would be missing an item in one box regularly, and we looked at it a lot, and we realized that it was whenever someone was going back to the walk-in to grab more of the product they were packing was when they were most likely to come back to slightly the wrong spot and miss a box or two. So now we try to pack onto the cart that we're going to be rolling around with the items on it, everything that we need at any given time, so that we don't have to do that switch and remember where you were at and come back to it. So little things like that have been really helpful. And I think it's mostly just about like a mindset of where are these errors happening and is there anything we can do about them? And sometimes there's not, but often there is. Finally, just a couple examples of other places where we've tried to avoid task switching or having people have to be really on it, basically. So rather than doing the count of all the items in the box, instead we have the check as we go method, rather than needing to like triple check the home delivery box count whenever we're loading up or when we're finished with the pack. We download a file of the stickers for the home deliveries and print those. So we know that if we've used every sticker and we've stickered every box, we have the right amount. So there's just like less pressure on a staff person to get that personally right. And it's more like built into the process to have the double check, if that makes sense. So again, like really small things, but they end up saving a lot of time and a lot of customer service energy when we just get them right the first time. So that is all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions. And I feel like I talked very fast, so I'm sorry about that.
We had a question from Shelley specifically about the bag spec.
The reusable bags we have?
Yes.
Yes. I can just send, when I send my presentation over, I can just send the link of where we got them because I don't remember off the top of my head all the details, but I love them. I mean, they fall apart a little faster than I would like, but they work great. And we just have to kind of re-up them periodically. And we do pass the cost on to our customers. We don't make any money off of them, but we require like a deposit basically. So,
And then
yeah, I can just send that info over basically.
There's another question from Shelley. Do you want to ask that one? She's looking to know more about the flow for the add-ons for your home delivery items. So when
Sure.
are you bringing those into your flow?
Yeah, so we prep all the home delivery items in advance of starting the packing. It's like kind of part of our weighing and prepping process. Usually after we've finished all of the prep for the items that are going into the boxes, one person will be in charge of all of the a la carte items that are going to each location. So we'll weigh out anything we need to weigh out. We'll check that we have had the right stuff come in, and then we'll sort it by where it's going. So the box of home delivery, the box of warehouse, the box of box factory. And then during the packing process, or sometimes right afterwards, once we've packed like all of the small boxes, the person who's in charge of the a la carte items will, before they're closed up, add in anything that needs to be added in. Sometimes when there's a very large home delivery a la carte order, we'll just pack that separately, and then we can just pack the box as normal, and we just have a note about that. If there are items that are frozen or that otherwise can't be put into the box, that's just a note on our delivery sheet and on the box itself, and the driver grabs it in the morning, and that's just like the last add-on that goes in.
Cool. There's a question about how much you charge for delivery, for home delivery. Keep in mind this is an urban area.
We charge $7 per delivery within the city of Bend. And we definitely make money on that. And it's great.
And Hannah, I think that was you that was asking questions about home delivery. We did a session a few months ago, or actually it's probably about a year ago, on home delivery, where we talked about charges and paying attention to mileage and things like that. So if you want to get more into that question, there is another resource that's been developed for that. Erin, I would like to hear a little bit more about the trials and errors of sorting out good storage quality for overnight storage. I think that would be relevant to this group.
Yeah, definitely. So when I started, we basically never did overnight storage except for in, like, we receive most of our product on Tuesdays, we pack most of our product on Wednesdays, and we send it out on Wednesday and Thursday. When I started, we were sending all of our product out on Wednesday. So we were getting things in as the farmers had packed them, and then we were packing them and sending them out immediately, basically. So that's been a big change. And we've been really concerned about making sure that quality stays really high, since that's one of the big values that people are getting from us. And I guess my main takeaway was it wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be to maintain good quality. As long as we were making sure that we were keeping an eye on the product that we were packing, and we weren't packing things that were already looking bad or looking wilty if we could avoid it at all. And as long as we were spritzing them with just water before we were covering them up, and as long as we were making sure we were actually covering them up, as opposed to just using crates that have a lot of holes in them or wax boxes that have a lot of holes in them. All of that was all we really needed to make sure that things were holding at a decent quality. And because we staff our Thursday pickup, we have a really good check on that to make sure that things are looking good. So sometimes the person who staffs that pickup will say to us like, last week, the greens were not looking like as good as I would like. So please like spritz a lot more this time. And that is generally all we need to do to solve that problem. Or sometimes they'll say like, make sure, like I noticed them without box coverings on them, and that's really important. So like, make sure you do that. So we have that like check on the process, but truly I was surprised at how effective it's been just to make sure that we're spritzing and we're lining and we're covering boxes, and we're using boxes that don't have too many holes whenever possible.
Cool, thank you. Kristen has a question in the chat about where you're delivering and DocBox and collaborative partnerships.
Scroll through it and found it. Yes, I agree. Rolling carts are amazing. I love them. I wish I had even more of them.
We'll talk.
Sorry, I can't find this question.
It's at the very, very bottom.
There it is. There it is. You currently offer delivery outside of city limits. We don't currently offer delivery outside of city limits as part of our base program. We're looking at it because we do now offer our wholesale program offers delivery farther afield now. So it's something that we're considering. I think the main reason that we haven't wanted to do delivery farther out is because we felt like we could be doing more within the city of Bend before we start spending more effort to go farther. But also now that we're delivering farther anyway with our wholesale program, it makes a lot more sense to go farther. So we're kind of like at a point where we're looking at setting up at least a pickup site outside of the city of Bend, because we don't even have that yet. And as far as collaborative partnerships, yeah, we will frequently fulfill for other companies, like we are fulfilling for DocBox, as Krista mentioned, which has been great. We're only doing pickup for that right now. We've done home delivery in the past, and we've extended our pickup boundary or home delivery boundaries for that, for those specific programs in the past, and we just charged a little more for that, depending on how far out the person wants us to be able to go. But I do think that when we're able to sustainably deliver farther out, that will be really good for our ability to fulfill more for other partners. But it is something we can build in basically by adding it onto our wholesale routes rather than adding it onto our existing home delivery route.
And Sue has a question about, do you have customers return wax boxes for use, or are they single use?
We reuse the boxes, which at some point we will have to stop doing probably, because it's probably a gray area. But we do ask customers to return them. We also ask people to just bring a bag to pick up, and then they repack their stuff into their bag rather than taking our crate home. Especially, we never hand out our crates because we have a hard enough time getting our boxes back, and we don't want to lose the crates. And we are mostly reusing boxes that we get product in for the harvest boxes. So we occasionally have to kind of bulk that up by paying for a round of boxes, but it's not a regular cost for us right now. And we try to keep the boxes that are coming from producers outside of our region. So if we have to order from like Groundwork in the Willamette Valley, they won't take boxes back anyway. So we'll reuse their boxes rather than trying to take them from our Central Oregon farmers who would love to get those boxes back.
And I'll speak a little bit to the boxes. Erin's correct. It is a gray area, Sue. And for those of you who are reusing wax boxes, there actually isn't a specific law against it. The very specific law states that it must be able to be cleaned and sanitized. So most of your farmers are probably reusing boxes, or a lot of your farmers are probably reusing boxes and lining it with wax paper. So that's one way to go about doing this. As your hub grows, you know, food safety becomes ever more and more relevant, and more regulation applies to you. So for example, Ag Connect is growing, and it's getting very close to needing to comply with a next level of regulation, because it's getting close to needing to be a USDA registered food warehouse, which is a whole different kettle of fish from where most of us are operating right now. Other questions?
I'm seeing a question about using SKU to organize products.
Oh,
We don't, just because almost everything we're sending out, like the vast majority, even if you include our add-on items, is in the produce box itself, and that changes every week. So it's not very helpful for us to use a SKU. We track our inventory of any items that we hold on hand for our a la carte program. We have an inventory spreadsheet that we just made in Google Docs, and we also can track it through Shopify. We're kind of in the process of like eliminating one of those so that we're not duplicating effort. But Shopify is also the platform that we sell our retail program items through. We use local food marketplace for our wholesale program, but not for our retail program. So we don't right now. I definitely could see us getting to that point. We've been slowly kind of increasing the number of things we offer in the add-on category, but right now we don't really need to use it because there's just not that many, and they're pretty easy to distinguish from each other.
What other questions do we have?
Oh, yes, it was Holden bags. Thank you to whoever. Yeah, thank you to whoever putting that in the chat. Holden bags is what I use as well for my reusable bags.
Other questions? Holy cow. Thanks, Erin.
Yeah.
I feel
If you
like
have
I
any other
learned a lot
questions you
from
think
you.
of later, feel free to email me. I love talking about logistics.
You're in good company with this group. All right. All right, y'all. No more questions for either of our presenters today. Those are great presentations. I feel like I learned a ton, and it's so timely for this time of year. So if we don't have any more questions, I would love to go around the room because we've got a nice sized room for this, and hear we haven't checked in a while. So I'd love to hear if there's anything that people are working on that is going really well, or that they're getting ready, what's new with all of you who are running hubs. And then also, if there's folks that are new to this group, if you want to introduce yourselves and say where you are. Sue, I'm looking at you. It'd be great if you could introduce yourself to the rest of this group. Heidi, I know I see you on this call sometimes, but not all the time. If you could introduce yourself, I think that'd be great. So yeah, if we want to go ahead and start with that, Sue.
Hi, so I'm Sue Wells. I'm based in Salem, and I am working on I would call it like a mini, maybe a micro hub. I was kind of in between. Is this more of a buyer's club? I think I'm sort of convinced that we can fall into the food hub category because I'm open to expansion, but we're going to stick with primarily retail sales right now. And we're really in the planning process. I have been hoping to launch this, the timeline of launching gets a little bit pushed back as we go, but I've been hoping to launch this growing season at least. So I'm trying to figure out what scale to start at, but we're primarily serving the Salem metro area, and then we've been talking to some food business partnerships in Independence in Silverton as well, who've just been interested in hosting potential drop sites there. So I'm still figuring out if it would make sense for us to start with those drop sites from the get-go or just stick with Salem. So that's kind of, I haven't committed to a software, so I'm definitely like, that's the big decision I need to make. But this week I'm filing with the Secretary of State as an official business. So our name is Valley Grown Food Connection. So if you see that name, that's us. And I have a lot of questions that I just reached out to Sydney about, but definitely in the learning curve process. So I may, after talking to Sydney, may reach out to some of you if you're open to it, if you have similar models. That's what I'm doing.
Well, welcome. I'm really excited about what you're doing. Shelley, you have some big changes. If you have audio to and capability of sharing, it'd be great to hear from
Yeah,
what's going
sure.
on with
Yeah. Hey, can you hear me okay?
you. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm here in the parking lot of the Newport Aquarium. So, little spring break trip. So we have, yeah, some big news. We just moved our headquarters to a new facility that has available walk-in space and a walk-in freezer. We actually found an old apple orchard property that was for sale. So we're just moving out of our kind of garage startup phase and are looking at using a lot more wheels, which I'm just thrilled about. So still in the move-in process, but it just really is going to expand our capacity. We also, in a big twist related to the USDA, can now accept EBT food stamps. So and this is for the online purchasing pilot as well. So my big goal has been to get EBT food stamps in at the checkout of our Shopify store. And I thought we needed to be categorized. I was told we needed to be categorized as a brick and mortar to make that happen. However, we could only secure a farmer direct retailer USDA situation. And then that just changed. So all of a sudden they decided that farmer direct people could also be part of that online purchasing pilot. So I'm working with a software company and it's coming up within 6 to 12 weeks, they told me. So we're excited about that.
That's amazing. And I'm going to force you after that happens to come on and present about that, because I know everybody hears, all their ears went, what? How'd you make that happen? So you're going to have to share with all of us
Sure,
a little
will
bit
do.
more about
Happy
that.
Mhm.
Who else? Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I can just tell you it's through a company called Forage. And I just saw a bunch of people in the chat wanting to know more about it. And just briefly, it's a company out of San Francisco called Forage. They're partnered with Shopify and the USDA as a online SNAP processor. So I would just look up Forage, and that's the company that's making it happen for people with this platform.
Awesome. Thank you. Amazing. Who else has stuff they're working on or updates that they want to share with this group? Christy.
I do. Also, Shelley, I think I saw in your newsletter that you were trying to get your lugs back, that they were disappearing. So you can relate to Erin. So I run Genuine Lava County Provisions in Northeast Oregon. And two big things, it's a very small food hub, two big things that have happened though. I kept trying to create connections across Oregon to get more produce and product over here. We still have snow on the ground and we're a long ways from spring. So, excuse me, getting produce is difficult. But I just made a connection with Walla Walla Food Hub, which is in Washington, just over the border, 2 hours away. And so not only are they providing some produce, but they're also connecting me with Puget Sound Food Hub and local Farm Stand Local Foods, which is another hub in the Puget Sound area. So I'm super excited to have access to all that product. And then the other thing, I'm gonna put a link in the chat. I started I know I'm so excited. It's amazing to have produce right now.
I can't contain myself over here on your behalf. This is amazing.
I should, if I had Wi-Fi in my warehouse, which is my garage, I would go out there and show it to you because I'm that excited about it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and then I also I had subscription boxes on my gift box site, and I made some for the food site. So check that out if anyone is interested in looking at that. I don't know if anybody else ships. Does anybody else ship regularly? You do? Shelley, I'd love to chat with you or have a look at what I did and let me know what you do. And I would love to compare notes because I think it could be a good thing. I've only got a couple of takers so far, but yeah, so those are big things going on over here.
Christy, that is amazing. That is like dramatic changes, I think, since the last time I talked to you. It's huge. And now you're going to connect us all with the whole, Pacific Northwest Food Hub group. You're going to be responsible for building that relationship for all of us.
Yeah, right. Well, everything's coming this way, so I don't know what good it's going to do you all. We need somebody that just comes straight south, which can't be that hard to do. But
We're working on it.
pretty exciting.
Kristen's like in the mix of working on that for sure.
Right.
Who else has stuff going on that they want to share with the group? Heidi.
Hi, I'm Heidi Hermanson from Oregon Department of Ag, and I work in produce safety. And I just wanted to introduce myself. We're not a regulatory program. We help with education and technical support. And I just wanted to let folks know that we're here to help. If you'd like a site visit and have specific questions, or if you just need some specific questions answered, we're here to help you.
Oh, Heidi, we're thrilled to meet you, and don't you worry, we'll be reaching out regularly.
Great.
Who else has stuff that they want to share?
Hey, Sydney, I would recommend that the first young lady, I can't remember her name at the
Kiara, maybe?
Kiara, the one in Salem.
Oh, no, that's Sue.
Okay, Sue. That she probably wants to look at the feasibility study done a few years ago for Salem and the feasibilities of a food hub being there. So she can just look at it and get some ideas. But yeah, I think that'll be a good feasibility study to look at as it relates to Salem.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I actually have looked at it, and that was one of the reasons that the last few years I haven't jumped on it. The conclusion essentially of the study was he didn't think it was feasible. It was done before COVID, and that's kind of the reason. After just talking to folks, I'm like, I'm gonna start small and see what happens in Salem. But that is a very good point. There's a lot of work that went into that. Yeah. And
like you said, that was before COVID, and things could have or probably have changed. So definitely don't be governed by something from a few years ago, but it's something to look at and say, okay, and use it.
What I love is that Willie, who's located out in East County and up by Portland, knows about Salem's food hub study.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a little light reading.
Yeah. Well, being connected semi to Eco Trust and Amanda and that crew there, you get access to the nation at a level. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Who else has stuff they want to share? Kristen.
Hey everyone. I just want to say thank you for all the incredible resources shared today. It's blowing my mind. Also, I think Sydney had sent out a request for folks, anyone who's applying for one of the upcoming AMS grants. I'm just kind of putting another pitch for sharing if you're going after an LFPP or RFSP or value added producer grant. It's getting to be that time where everybody's going to be in the crunch of asking for letters of support. I'm working really closely with Kim at Bohemia Food Hub. I don't see her on the call today, but we just had a great call with Sydney and our grant writer from Stepwell Strategies, who has a lot of experience with these grants. has worked with North Coast Food Web on their LFPP application last year. So he's getting, the person we work with, his name is Ben, he's getting a really good sense of like projects emerging across Oregon, which is really helpful. We're trying to really look at the projects and develop projects that might be coming in different regions and be able to show like how they're in alignment. So these conversations have been super helpful, but if anybody is going after one and there's any way that we from the Oregon coast or otherwise could support, let us know. I love the way that these projects are all getting woven together in really cool ways. Yeah, I guess on that front, like Sydney kind of mentioned this, there's a lot happening in terms of distribution, connections, and needs that are popping up even in the last month, like some really urgent needs. Folks like Portland Creamery have lost one of their distributors in the last few weeks. So we're looking at, you know, who's going where again, when. So I will be probably reaching out to folks just for updates to our little distribution tracker to get that up as an asset for folks to just check in with each other and know if you need a ride share for produce or making a connection like hub to hub. So that's exciting. But yeah, I think I'll have more to share on some of those projects once we get through working on the work plans for some of these things. But Kim is really excited about potentially going into co-packing at Bohemia Food Hub. I personally am in the process of purchasing a hot sauce company called Hot Winter, which we're looking at Kim doing the co-packing for that and kind of doing a test pilot of that. So yeah, so I definitely will be looking for farmers that you might know who are growing, doesn't have to be certified organic, but organically grown hot peppers this season to purchase, but also really kind of trying to work out some of these kinks about learning more about food manufacturing and how that can create like other avenues for food hubs to, you know, if they have a surplus of something, move it into a value added product. So I'd love to hear from others that might be entertaining that or working with folks in that sphere. But yeah, thanks.
Kristen, I love all of that. And Christy, Kristen never thinks small. Kim never thinks small. Like Kristen loves food hubbing so much that now she's a customer of a food hub too. I love it. Who else has stuff that they want to share? All right. Oh, you're getting a feasibility study out there? That's awesome. For commercial kitchen?
Yeah, we'll
Speaking
see.
of co-packing?
The City of LeGrand Economic Development, I think, is the guy. His title is working with some students to do a feasibility study. So we'll see. It would be great. I don't know if there's enough people to keep it open, but I like that they're thinking about it anyway.
That's great. I don't know. I mean, Cottage Grove isn't that big, and Kim's managed to keep Bohemia open and full. It takes 1 acre tenant, really, is what it takes.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there are people. So anyway. And I looked at
don't let me forget about that, Christy, because there's that CIE, that Center for Innovation Excellence planning grant. I had brought Sherry Cole on, I think in January or December of this year, or last year, and they're looking specifically at kind of this idea of rural kitchens being a part of what OSU Food Science and Technology is doing alongside ODA in terms of like raising up rural economies. So
okay.
Don't let me forget that this thing is existing.
Oh yeah, maybe I'll send an email and link everybody up.
Yeah, that'd be great. It'd be good to make sure that gets a pin gets put on the map for that.
Yeah. I also looked at a storefront in LeGrand. There's a community store. It's tempting, but so she shared her numbers with me, and way too much of the money comes from a gelato stand that I don't want to run, and Legrand t-shirts that tourists buy when they are exhausted and get off the highway. So and she has to babysit the tenants that live upstairs for the building owner. So I'm just like, no.
That sounds kind of crazy.
It was fun to look at.
All right. Anything else? All right, you guys. Thanks for making time today. And Kiara and Erin, thank you so much for the amazing presentations that are going to be well-used resources for Evermore, I'm sure. All right, y'all. See you in a month.